So Ice Cube, face of the Big Three League, gave a generous offer to Caitlin Clark, but unfortunately, that offer not only ruffled some feathers, but it started to reveal some potential uncomfortable truths about the WNBA and why they possibly aren't succeeding as much as they should be.
It is a generous offer. And look, we're in a new age. It's like NIL. When we came up with the idea, our sponsors, our partners, they all want to make it happen. So, we was able to make that generous offer. We've thought about it. It's definitely doable. Both leagues play on CBS, so of course they love it if we can make it happen. So it's it's up to the player. As a league, we'll make it happen. We've always wanted to work with the WNBA. We wanted to work with the NBA. Unfortunately, that hasn't been able to happen.
So to put a little bit more context behind it, especially for the people out there who aren't familiar who Caitlin Clark is, Caitlin Clark, senior, coming out of Iowa, balling out of her mind right now. Let me get y'all these numbers real quick because the numbers she's posting up are crazy. This season, Caitlin is averaging 32 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds, shooting splits of 45, 38, 86, is easily one of the most enjoyable, entertaining ball players, regardless of gender, regardless of race, regardless of whatever, easily one of the most enjoyable ball players to watch right now. Electrifying, sensational, amazing to watch, right? And so, if you are WNBA, if you're someone who's rooting and supporting for women's basketball, you want to get behind this. Now, to be fair, what Ice Cube is trying to sit here and claim and supporting women, that's great. But the truth of the matter is that number is being presented to Caitlin Clark because she's entertaining to watch and she has the backing behind it with the viewership as well, because with those numbers that she's posting, with the electrifying play that she has that captivates the audience, the numbers, the ratings, the viewership is at historic highs. And I don't just mean that for women's basketball, I mean that for like college basketball, period. Literally just yesterday from when I'm recording this video, Caitlin Clark, Iowa draws a record 4.9 million viewers in the second round in the NCAA win. It's ridiculous right now. The Hawkeyes 64-54 victory over West Virginia in Monday's night second round game averaged 4.9 million viewers on ESPN, according to Nielsen, making it the most viewed women's tournament game ever, excluding Final Four contests and title games. So excluding that, still ridiculously high numbers. 4.9 million is outrageous. Monday night's game is also the most watched NCAA tournament game, men's or women's, on cable this year. The previous record was 4.1 million with an overtime victory of Houston's overtime victory on Texas A&M Saturday night on TNT. Now, mind you, this game happened on Monday, also during regular NBA games as well, so keep that in mind. It is the fourth Iowa women's game this season and first one on cable where the viewership was over 3 million viewers. Crazy. According to ESPN, Sunday and Monday's second round games average 1.4 million viewership, which is 121% increase over last year. Now, why is all of this important? Well, over the past couple of years, there's been ongoing conversations about the WNBA and the viewership surrounding that league. Why is it so low? How can they get it higher? And in general, just to be honest with you, there has been a level of ignorance that has surrounded that conversation. I will openly admit I have also participated in that level of ignorance because I may have said certain things. I have said certain things without me being very knowledgeable of the game. So because of that, I really took a step back from this conversation for the last year and a half, watched a little bit more women's basketball. And my opinion, for the most part, still is pretty sound. My overarching belief is that the WNBA, the game itself, just isn't that entertaining for most people. I don't even think it's a women's thing. I just think that the way that they play basketball in that league is not going to be enjoyable to how most people perceive and consume basketball in today's game. But that's the thing. Caitlin Clark, in the way that she plays, actually does present that level of entertainment, and it's the reason why the viewership is as high as it is right now. These numbers are outrageous, and it further proves a point that the takes of lowering the rim may not have been as credible as many people try to make it out to be. And also, it kind of dispels this concept of like, oh, men just don't want to support us because they're misogynistic and da-da-da, and it's like, that can't be the case either, because there's no way you get that level of viewership if men are not also watching as well, right? So in one instance, I look at this as like a very this is a W right here, bro. Even though the offer, I honestly believe, is some BS, this is W right here, dog. It's a W offer because if anything, it provides the evidence that, hey, people want to watch women's basketball. The numbers back it up. We have someone who's going to be playing at a high level who can going to continue to give us these numbers and evidence to show this. And now we have a league that is telling us what the market value for Caitlin Clark is, an athlete of this stature that provides this level of entertainment value and viewership viewership, and you're talking about $5 million. Again, the credibility behind the offer is up in the air, but at least it's out there. And what's even crazier is that it's not just Caitlin Clark, it's also Angel Reese as well, and what they're doing out there in South Carolina, because that viewership is also up as well. Back in January 26th this year, South Carolina's 76-70 win over LSU officially averaged 1.56 million viewers, topping the NBA matchup against the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat on TNT at the same time, which only averaged 1.38 million. So now we're talking about, again, I want to be clear, women's basketball has viewership that is rivaling the NBA on any given night. Let that settle in. And that's not the only game in which they had over 1 million viewers. It's multiple. And also, the reason why these numbers are also up, not only because, South Carolina undefeated, they're dominating, they're amazing, right? But also they have a star in their own right in Angel Reese. And both Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark are about to enter the WNBA. This moment in WNBA history is monumental. There's no denying it at all, because all of the excuses to why your league has not been getting the viewership may be addressed with two players very similar to what we saw with Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. But instead of championing getting behind these two women, in particular Caitlin Clark, who's putting up ridiculous numbers, what I start to realize very carefully is that we have people in the community actually tearing her down and doing the damage that is consistently holding that league back. First, we have Lexi Brown on Gilbert Arenas podcast because she had something to say about the whole situation with the offer that was given.
What do you think about Ice Cube and the Big Three offering Caitlin Clark $5 million to play in their league?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts. But the first one is that TMZ, they put out the statement that he was going to give the contract to Caitlin Clark. But if you open the article and you see what he said was his reasoning, he wanted to provide more opportunities for WNBA players and provide opportunities to not go overseas. So you offered the contract to a player who's not yet even in the WNBA. Big Three does not happen during overseas season. So that doesn't make sense.
That's true.
And then you pretty much offended all of the European countries that open their doors to us, give us a lot of money, a lot of love, and a lot of experience by calling them dismal and dubious. And there are some very beautiful countries that we have the opportunity to go play in. So, I mean, if you're gonna say that it's for that, then stand on that. But I don't think I think he's trying to make a business decision, which he's a businessman, that makes sense. But to mask it in this, I want to uplift and support WNBA players and women athletes is kind of a cop-out, I think. And I don't think it really makes any sense.
Now, I'm going to stop here and say, in essence, what she is saying is true. Like, this idea that Ice Cube is going to sit here and try to be like, oh, man, I just, it's a crazy ride out there. And that, like, no, bro, you are a businessman. And it makes sense from a financial structure to give one of the hottest athletes playing basketball, period, regardless of what league or regardless of their gender. It doesn't really matter. Caitlin Clark is undeniably one of the more identifiable names in basketball, period. So it makes sense that you want to give her a substantial amount of money in contrast to what you were even paying some of the men in this league. It makes sense that you're throwing her that type of bag because you think the viewership would come alongside it as well. But I do also find it very interesting because when I heard the news, I was like, oh, this is great. Because like, if you're telling me a league where they weren't even paying their players $5 million, and I think in this video, Kenyon Martin himself said, yeah, we weren't getting that type of money. In a league where they weren't even getting that type of money, that the value can be seen in a woman athlete to that extent, to invest that type of money into one person, once more, dispels a lot of the notion. So to not gain that type of an insight from it is crazy to me. And regardless of how you may not like or like what Ice Cube is doing, at the end of the day, it is some form of support towards women athletes. That's what it is. Like you cannot deny that whatsoever. Why he may be doing it is beneficial practice. We financially, he should benefit from it. That's the reason why he's doing it. Women athletes have existed before. He's just never handed them the opportunity. There is now a woman athlete who is garnishing a ridiculous amount of viewership that will potentially increase the viewership of the league that he is a hold of. So yes, undeniably, there's still going to be some financial implications that he will benefit from. But for you not to still acknowledge it's still some form of support to women, I think it's crazy, especially when the league has been dominated by men for its entire existence. To even give that opportunity to a woman is continuously breaking down the barriers in some regards. But more importantly, it again shows the value that a woman can have in the space. Why not acknowledge that? I found very interesting. I didn't understand that whatsoever. But then I dug a little deeper and I saw this clip also from Gilbert Arenas' podcast, Miss Cheryl Swoops, and this is what she said.
So when you look at Caitlin Clark and what she's doing now, on the verge of breaking Kelsey Plum's record, obviously generational college basketball career, how do you think her game will translate to the W?
So that's a two-part question for me. Because I say this, yes, records are made and set to be broken. But if you're going to break a record, this isn't just for Caitlin, but you asked me about Caitlin. If you're going to break a record, to me, if it's legitimate, you have to break that record in the same amount of time that that player set it.
Okay.
Right? So if Kelsey Plum set that record in 4 years, well, Caitlin should have broke that record in 4 years. But because there's a COVID year and then there's another year, you know what I mean? So she's already had an extra year to break that record. So is it truly a broken record?
So let's stop there and let me make sure the job is done correctly, because no one on that set actually corrected her. And completely an unnecessary thing to say. Somebody breaking a record, you just celebrate them, right? But it is odd to me once more that a player who is on the brink of transcending the level of entertainment and viewership to a league that desperately needs it, this is the conversation that is being had. But let me go ahead and correct her, as somebody should on that set should have done. And for people that don't know, Caitlin Clark broke the record in earlier this year for the most points being scored, originally held by Kelsey Plum. And on top of that, the reason why people are kind of talking about her is because they're all gearing up for her to be drafted into the WNBA. So again, big talking points here for a player who should be trained. This is like a Magic Johnson caliber player that's about to enter the league and that can completely shift all the momentum in the favor of this league. But to fact check what was just said, Caitlin Clark not only played fewer games, as she did it in 123 games when Kelsey Plum had 139 games, but she also had 4 years. Why you think the COVID year added another year, I don't know. That doesn't, I don't know. But it's odd that, again, that's how you're talking about somebody who's going to be transcendent, someone who has that type of potential. That's odd, but you're factually incorrect. I've said this several times on this channel. I've said it before. One of the biggest problems I have with these conversations about the WNBA and just in general is that people do not have genuine dialogue. That even when you're trying to converse, these are some of the things that are being stated and nobody doesn't even correct them. It's not genuine dialogue to be had regardless of how we're discussing it. So now it's all starting to look a bit more suspicious. So once I saw those two clips and then I start looking deeper into some of these rating numbers, and I'm like, there's just no way that we are actively trying to push away talent that's coming into this association that is going to save this league more ways than none, that you all are sitting here doing this. So then I decided to do a bit more digging, and I found some of the most disturbing, self-sabotaging bullshit I have ever seen in my lifetime. From USA Today, women's basketball needs faces of future to be black. Enter Juju and Hannah. Now, I want to be clear. Juju can hoop. Now she's a hooper. I ain't gonna hold you. She hoops, right? But this idea that we are going to prevent players who are undeniably going to be transcended in the viewership that they provide to this association, while also complaining about the viewership in the association, literally makes no sense. The numbers that we're seeing from Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and a lot of the players in NCAA right now and college level are ridiculous. Not only are they ridiculous, they are noticeably higher than what's going on in the WNBA right now. Because in the WNBA, I think the average viewership is around 600,000, right? And sometimes it peaks a little higher than that, but it's around 500,000 to 600,000. We're talking about athletes who are pulling millions. Even if Caitlin Clark didn't exist, Angel Reese herself is still pulling more views at that level than at the professional level. So it does beg the question at that point, if there are so many people enamored with these women, these young ladies playing at college, but somehow lose interest when they get to the W, why is that the case? And if you know that, why are there some underlining themes of potentially some of the people who are supposed to be supporting the WNBA not getting behind Caitlin Clark? Because if it is true that this is an ongoing sentiment within the community, that because she's a white woman and we don't want a white woman to be the face of this league because it needs to be black. And oh yeah, I don't even want to dare even talk about and touch the ridiculous claims that I've been hearing as well, that it not only needs to be black women, but also there is a LGBTQ plus push as well. If that is the case, we are effectively talking about an entire association ruining itself from the inside out. You cannot sit here and claim that everybody else is the problem when we have athletes who are now entering it. And let me also say this as well. Bro, that rule that makes these young women play 4 years of college before they get into the league is insanity. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, because we have been waiting on Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark to get into the W for way too long. The fact that there's numbers that provide the evidence that they're putting up crazy numbers, and you're going to stop them from doing what they're trying to do because you believe that this league should have a certain type of face to it, you're now trying to push agenda over the actual quality of the sport. You don't give a damn. You don't care. But yo, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know what you all think about this whole debacle of a situation with Caitlin Clark and everybody else going on. And also hit the subscribe button, notification bell. And until next time, I'll see you all later. Peace.